Welcome, everyone, to the 289th weekly MLP Drawing School live critique stream.
Oh my
It's,
god, 300's too close.
oh yeah, we should do something for that. What day will be the 300th? We're
I'm
talking, what,
assuming
11
sometime
weeks?
December, January? Because it's usually December when our yearly turnover is.
November 30th.
Oh, heck.
Yeah, all right. I'm free in November, so I say we do something. You
Hell
know,
yeah.
we could do a critique stream. We haven't done one of those in a while.
Nah.
All right, well, let's kick this off. If you have any art, wait, no, let's do this the proper way. We got a small horde of people here helping us along. As always, we got the ever wonderful Alleyclaw,
Hello.
and we got the freshly blow dried and fluffed Fluffy's Eye,
Yes.
and the freshly reemployed Pixin.
Hello, I'm screaming.
Which is the proper way to respond to being freshly employed.
Yeah, 100%. Just yell and scream, and that's it.
That's how you make the big bucks.
Yeah.
100%.
All
And
right,
of course, we got our leader, Zom. We can't forget you, the living dead.
I'm back. I wasn't busy today.
You're
Hello,
back.
LD.
Hi.
It you. It me.
All
It us.
It all of us. All right, so as always, for all no viewers who are looking at us, if you have any art, please feel free to fire it towards our face at high velocity. And if you have any questions, please ask them. We love the questions, especially when they accompany your art.
Mm-hmm.
So let's pop into this one. We're going to start off with a picture submitted by Tofu, who has no questions. So it must be perfect, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Perfection.
it's what, like, for what reason are you submitting this? It's pretty much just fucking gorgeous. Whoops, sorry. There's that one for the week. Don't want to get out early.
You
Now
got it.
Disney.
Yeah. So, I can probably provide a little bit of input because I chatted with Tofu a little bit about this last night.
Whoa.
I think they said, yeah, they're pretty happy with it as well. They're just kind of wondering whether we have any sort of opinions or, things that could make it better or anything like that. Any little things we notice or, whatever.
I think now I don't know how harsh I'll sound saying this, but so you're at this stage, right? Where your work is really starting to come together. I know you keep saying you have a lot to learn. Of course, we're all artists, we all infinitely learn. Um, but I think one of the critiques I have is for getting critique, and I know you say you have a few things like you want to work on texture and anatomy, but mostly you're looking for general feedback. I think you should push yourself more and think a little harder about why you want feedback. Really dive into this piece and pinpoint what's something you want to get better at. Because at this stage, I think you need push a little further into why and what you want to get better at. Because it's again, something at this, it's like you're doing great. This looks wonderful. The direction you're going is great. And I don't want to sit here and just keep saying that to you when you want feedback of some sort. There is one or two really nitpicky things I can talk about, and I might talk about later, see what everyone else says. But I really, really do think something that'll improve you as an artist is really thinking harder about your art and what it is you need help with or want to do better at. Like really pinpoint that stuff because that's what's going to help grow that extra 1% because you've done the big jumps, right? You've gone from knowing nothing to knowing some things to knowing a lot of things. Those are really fast moving learning processes. Now you're at the point where you're like trying to figure out the next 10% of art, and it's a slower jump because it's more nitpicky, it's more precise, it's more specific. So we need your thought process as well to be a little bit more nitpicky, precise, and specific about critique getting. My 2 cents though.
Absolutely agree.
Mm.
Getting
I
self-critical
think,
can be wonderful.
yeah,
Mhm.
100%. I think something that I notice with your stuff sometimes is that your more worked on, more complete stuff like these pictures, they turn out, they look good. You sort of have a decent sort of a view of sort of how to improve them and how to respond to feedback on them and all that sort of stuff. But your sketchy stuff and your like hastily drawny sort of stuff doesn't quite meet sort of the same level. I remember one time when you were chucking in some sketchy stuff, and I think Dino or someone like that was like, "This doesn't really like look like the same artist." So I think this sort of work you're doing a write in, it might just be a case of like a good thing to just like loosen up and work on sort of getting stuff down quickly, because I think that's going to help you sort of make your ideas look better more quickly, and get a better picture of the sort of stuff you're going to end up with when you
Mhm.
start working on a piece.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Mm. My question really is like, are you happy with this picture? Because that's a very important thing to ask with art. Like, it's easy for us to get wrapped up in like, what can I do better? How do I move forward using this piece? Like, what do other people think of it? Is it going to get like recognition? And it is. I think it is important to have affirmation. I think it's healthy to have both a strong sense of like self validation and external validation. I think both can have strong benefits, but like, you obviously just don't want to get too wrapped up in the external validation. Um, to the point where you sort of can't even like acknowledge your own work without someone else saying that it's good. That's obviously an unhealthy point to get to. So like it is important to say, are you happy with this? Is this a picture that you're proud of? Because it clearly is something that you've worked a lot on. In fact, I saw it in the channel. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I remember thinking like, there's no way he's going to submit this for the critique stream, right? It's amazing. And here we are. So like, it's a case of, I suppose, making sure that it's not sort of submitting something just for the sake of submitting it, or just, trying to improve just for the sake of, there must be something I can bleed out of this picture to give me improvement. Sometimes you just got to take the win. Just got to let a picture be an amazing picture and just say, okay, well, this is good. This is done. And like, it's super good to look for feedback, because sometimes it can be like, okay, I love this picture. What are other people's feedback on it? Oh, this and this and this person all thought X. Perhaps that's something I can think about in the future, even though it's something that I thought was good, or whatever it might be. It might be like something, oh, I think this could be done better, or I think this could be done differently, or here's an idea of something that could be added. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be negative. It could be positive. But it's always good to get that feedback. It's just good, I think, to remember that the point of it is to sort of have a picture that you like in the end.
So, from my side, I do see a few points that could use a little bit of tweaking. If you're looking for some of that, um, the foreground has nothing. There's nothing there, and it's kind of boring because of it. We got this big old void to the left in front of the this castle fort thing, and then over to the right under Celestia, we could do a bit of framing with those heads. Looking over what I've actually put here as circles for heads, I would actually change it up a bit, and I would get a good old medium size there, some more forward here, and definitely a big old one here, just to break up a bit of that foreground. I wouldn't put detail into the heads. I would do it just to give the vague idea that there's a soldier looking forward and they're sort of lined up on that. It further tells the story of what's
Yeah.
happening here.
I was trying to think of what you meant by your head, so I thought you were using it sort of like a measuring sense, and then I realized, oh, you mean actually put like other characters in. Hmm. Makes sense.
Stuff in the extreme foreground is always interesting and useful and cool.
Mm.
Especially in like pushing that sense of scale and all that sort of stuff you're sort of going for here.
Plus storytelling.
Mm,
We had a
yeah.
little talk beforehand for the stream about like things we could talk about, and something I feel like there's kind of a vague thing happening here. Like Celestia is clearly going after this building in a mountain, right? But we don't know anything other. Like we just see Celestia's alone and a vague, very um unidentifiable building. There's nothing special about it. It's just kind of like a fortress. we could add more to this by, I don't know, adding it like a statue. Like, is this the Griffin's like huge I can't think of the word for it, but like stronghold structure, and they're
Mhm.
firing down at Celestia. If they are griffins, maybe there's like a giant griffin statue at the top, big, elegant, and regal, or there's flags on it to depict who they are.
Or some
Why is
soldiers like
Celestia
floating
alone?
around
Like,
in the airspace, like sort of anticipating the enemy's arrival if they get past the ballistas. You know, just have soldiers flying around,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
or on the ground if they're not flyers.
We basically know nothing about this building other than that it's in a mountain and super nondescript. And sometimes, yes, maybe like a battle stronghold is very nondescript because it wants to stay hidden. But I feel
Hmm.
like in a world with colorful ponies, we can get a little more story out of our structures. And in a fantasy land, the architecture can play such an important role. So,
Hmm.
like, details there, super helpful to the
I mean,
storytelling.
think about the show and how these like different architectures and different cultures for like different races of ponies as well. So the other different races in Equestria, if they have architecture at all, like the dragons don't really have much, but I mean that is just their thing, isn't it? They use the natural landscape rather than having architecture that they physically build most of the time. And, you know, changelings are very sort of like natural and weird, and sort of they have those sort of like twisted organic um, stuff to them. You got like obviously within the ponies themselves, of course, you got like the Pegasi with their sort of like Aztec Greek looking like pillars and everything, and you've got like the crystal ponies have a very distinct style. So it can do a lot to invent like, okay, what is this race? How have they developed technologically, and how would they build this building, and what would it look like? As well
And
as
like
maybe stuff
another
around it,
thing,
like small like little other towers and walls and stuff around it, maybe.
yeah, and if the creatures, like, are a creature that can fly, they're like, right, in a giant battle like this, there might be scouts, like, way in the background keeping an eye
Mm-hmm.
on things, like, you could have little creatures flying because you have this
Oh,
beautiful
blimp.
sunspot here, like, illuminating everything, so we can see, like, just the little
Mm-hmm.
details, like, these ballistas are beautiful, how simple they are, they're, like, perfectly inferred, I love them, you can zoom in on them, they feel great, and you can zoom out on them, and they feel great. More of that. I want more, but,
Mm-hmm.
like, storytelling versions of that. We have a weapon, but who's
Yeah.
handling it?
Yeah.
And speaking of the ballista, I don't know if it's just me. Does anyone else feel like the projectiles? I don't know if they're like hot metal bars or something. I can't quite tell, but it feels almost like they're moving kind of slowly. I don't know if that's like intentional, but I imagine these things like just sort of like swooshing past really quickly. And I think aside from like I don't have a tool. My tools are hidden. Like this one sort of is at a bit of a crooked angle. Some of them are a bit crooked angle, which I like that it sort of breaks it up. But this one, the way it's flying past, I feel, even though like obviously we're just seeing like the moment of impact, it's obviously hitting the wing. When you zoom in, you can see that it's not just like passing over the character to show overlap. It's making contact. Um, but there's something about it that just sort of makes it feel too still. Whereas, like, if it was like here and we were seeing just sort of like the after effects of it, like swooshing past the character to create that sort of sense of it, just like blowing past really quickly, could help to sort of increase the momentum in how we read the picture. But
Yeah,
just a minor
some of
suggestion.
it is like, so if you look at this, if you look at this before I chucked all that stuff on top, we can see exactly where the projectile starts and stops, and there's no softness about it. There's no motion blur sort of getting into it. So that's probably like
Yes.
why it feels slow and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, that's a good point as well.
just stuff. And if the projectile
Ideas
is
for
here
you.
right now, yeah, if the projectile is here right now, there's going to be like also little like flicks of light and stuff like that back here coming off it, and stuff that's broken off it, or little sparks that have come off it in the past, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I almost say you could, like, get I don't know for sure, but, like, heck, there's a giant war scene in Lord of the Rings, right? There's probably ballistas in that. I wouldn't be surprised if there's flaming ballistas if you just, like, or any movie that kinda has a war scenario with flaming ballistas, you could pause that mid-scene and kinda get an idea for how blurred these things can get.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Shall we
lots of
move
little
on?
ideas for you. Hope it helps.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to our
Exactly.
next one?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Heck yeah.
Cool.
Great work as always, Tofu. Like honestly, we're nitpicking. You do great stuff. So
You should also draw more horse. Just saying.
and I like Pixie's advice. Maybe more sketches, more unfinished, but focused on like the beginning steps.
Draw quick. Limit yourself to 2 minutes or to 5 minutes, and then just see what it looks like. See if you can like get the face shapes down to like looking nice, or whether they look boxy, or just whatever.
I was gonna ask if you guys knew why my interface had disappeared, but I figured it out. It's all good.
No.
Apparently hitting the tab key hides the UI like on Clip Studio, but like even less, like there's just nothing, it's just the canvas. So I was like, why is everything gone?
All right. So our next one is by Bradley Boren. And it is Concept Arts of Royal Sisters. I called them Midnight Nocturne and Merciless Burn. Corrupted by Great Evil Magic Entity from my webcomics. Drawn by Zymphorica. I assume that's their other name because I think they did this before where we got all sorts of confused.
Oh no.
I love
Yeah.
I love everything about this. It's like
I love the designs. It's good.
oh my god, trying to pick a
It's
color
okay.
which works.
Big ear.
Yeah. The ear shapes are super good. The face
Yeah.
shapes,
Mm.
the eye
The
shapes,
horns.
these things.
I
The
love the
horns, the other
horns.
horns.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
horns are so good.
I just
That's
want to
what-
look at these ears and stare at them.
Yeah,
for ages.
that's a good. I like the
And
teeth.
the muzzle. Good job with the muzzle.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
The eyes, the
These
pupils. Ugh.
bits of like stuff, you could maybe like I get the feeling that this should probably be like the middle point should probably be up there a little bit more and towards the back a little bit more. But no big stress. It's pretty clear that you know a fair bit about form and expressing it and that kind of stuff. So
What you could do is add some more sort of like rim highlights on the armor, and I will explain to that when I am able to draw, but I'm trying to find my pen at the moment.
While he
But
draws
yeah,
the pen, or finds the pen, I think for the bodies, though, because your armor just sort of floats in space for it, it gets a little odd as far as wondering where it forms to the body. It would just, I think it would be nice to get those two strokes just to see the front of the chest a little bit in the where the back sits, just to get a better understanding. Because on ours, because it's on a white background, we have this black line at the bottom of the mane. That makes me think that's the body line, but it doesn't make sense because the rest of the body line is done with like this orange sort of dark color. Hope that makes sense.
Hmm.
You found your pen yet?
Yes, I did. I'm
Sweet.
just getting the colors. Okay. One good example of sort of metallics is Atrial. I actually haven't thought about that an artist in ages, but they do super great like rendering. They're a good example of like speed sketching as well as like just like beautiful line work without it being like too neat like mine. And they do like metallic stuff like really, really well. And they'll sort of add like lots of highlights to the metallic parts, like showing the sort of shine coming off of parts of them. So it's definitely worth checking them out, and or any other artist that does cool metallic stuff and looking up how to like make metals look really shiny. Oops, I'm trying to move the. There we go. Maybe a bit more subtle and newness, but yeah.
Yeah, it's already making it feel like a little more poppy with the metallic shine.
Yeah, because it's metal and it's gonna have, especially on like sharper edges, but on any bit really, it's gonna have like a nice sort of like fine sharpness to it. When you think with it, if their eyes are shiny, their middle should be shiny. Is the I don't remember the name given for the celestial one, but did she have another horn? I think this part here might be a horn, but I feel like we would be seeing it like here.
Yeah, I think we'd be seeing it off the side of her face with how large that other one is.
Mhm.
And they named her Merciless Burn.
There we go. Yeah, it would look like this, I think. At least that's myself guessing. Oh gosh, I flipped the canvas upside down. There we go.
Yeah, I chucked a little bit of like stuff of this like same
Hmm.
kind of thing, just like on the horns, just a tiny bit. I think it
Yeah,
breaks up
that
the
can work very well for horns as well, for these sort of like animal horns as well, yeah. Or
yeah.
also for the unicorn horns.
Mm.
Also, I love how you've got the the differences in the mains are really good, but especially on Merciless Barons, the way it like sort of you can't quite tell where like main ends and fire begins, and it's cool, and it's like it's sort of what we talked about last week in one of the pictures, like making fire, but like having it be a part of the drawing and not like an effect, but also uh like it feels like it's lively. It feels like we've got motion captured. Like looking at that character, you can sort of feel like the heat and the noise of fire and like the endless sort of like motion and dancing of fire, and like it definitely comes across when you look at that character. It's good.
Mm. One thing that stands out to me, and I'm not sure, is I think the perspective of the muzzle feels off between the two. Like she feels great. I love her muzzle. I love her thickness. The way she's facing matches with the face. Um, but this muzzle feels almost off to me somehow. Um, and I can't quite pinpoint it. I almost feel like the cheek is almost too far out since we have a thinner muzzle here. And she might be facing a little more drastically into the two-thirds. Like she here feels very two-thirdsy, where the sister feels just like a slight more of an inward curve versus like what two-thirds would be here. It's super nitpicky, but it would just like to me it would just shrink the cheek just a smidgen more to fit with the whole head. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. It's always a
No, I think
possibility.
yeah, no, I think I was getting the same feeling. Yeah.
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 All right, ready to
Or
roll
you
on to our
can,
next horse?
yeah.
Horse.
Heck yeah.
Oh, look, it's another moon horse.
So many.
Yay.
This one's by my enemy, the Oreo Bandit. I will get my Oreos back from you. Haven't been here in a little bit. Here's a Nightmare Moon headshot I drew. Looks good. Looks good.
I
I
like the
like it.
spacey, flowy mane.
The highlighting you did above the eye, nice.
Ooh, yeah.
Interesting nose and ear too, like the spiral in that almost reminds me of Hercules, like Disney's Hercules. That sort of art
Hmm.
style.
Kinda.
Let's see. Something that stands out to me is I think her neck's a little too thin though. Um, and I think this happens a lot with Nightmare Moon and such. It's kind of like you have to decide is her mane translucent or is it opaque? If it's opaque, it will cover up the neck here, but if it's translucent, we'll still see, the full head shape and maybe even the neck can start here as well. And then we can have another layer where the mane comes over it and we'd still see the under neck.
Yeah. 100%. Need to thicken up that neck. and all that kind of stuff. I like. Hey,
You
hey.
okay?
Yeah, I just had a thing of apple juice, and it's very phlegmy.
Oh, no.
The ear with this spirally thing, love it. The nose, it's a little bit distracting. I'd almost, if I was going for something like this, I'd probably go for like the same kind of like something like that, so that it like matches the shape of the nostril a little bit more. Because right now it's just the spiral opening like that is a little bit distracting. Let me do this. Boop, 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 boop. I know she has no nose, but hold on a sec. Boop, 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 boop. Something like that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Just to emphasize and help out the shapes and all that kind of weird stuff. This looks good though.
I'd almost be willing to say to do the same thing to the ear, so you like kind of follow the opening of the ear, quote unquote. Because like if you
Yeah,
think the ear
definitely
slit,
could do.
ears kind of open like here. So if you do something,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It'd be fun to mess about with it.
Yeah, it's a really interesting detail.
As a thing, all up and down here. Actually, let me thicken up my line so they're a bit easier to see. There we go. Here and here, it looks good, but these two and these two are very similar to each other, and so it looks like it's like being repeated for not much of a reason. So what you can probably do is either change the shape of this and this, or just like have this like go directly into that sort of spirally thing. You know, something like that. Just because like this bit and this bit, like because these two curves look so similar, it just comes across almost like a little bit of a mistake, kind of sort of thing. But yeah, it's all good. No big stress.
All right, shall we move on to our next horse?
Yeah, it's nice seeing you
Yeah,
back. Really good Luna.
great horse, great drawing, love it. Keep drawing more.
All right.
Heck
Our
yeah.
next one, or next ones, I should say, is by Seborgin.
Mushroom horses.
Yeah.
Seborgin mushroom horses.
Looking for improvements in these 5 sketches. I highly suggest you look at them. Then you'll see some improvement. Because you're improving, my dude.
Oh, got him.
Got him. Get wrecked. All right, let's move on. Next picture.
Yep.
I like it. Cool.
I really want to know what's going on in this bottom right-hand corner. Is that hat emitting light? Is it shooting water? What is going on? It's fancy though.
Fancy. Looking down at Luna.
Maybe it's like a reverse hat. You know how hats normally keep the sun off of you? Maybe in this case, it's just projecting the sun downwards.
Maybe that's why like Luna looks so scared of it, because it's the sun, and she's like, nah, that's not me, fam.
I think honestly, it's just a matter of like they've excluded the background lighting where the characters are to highlight them in the sketch. But yeah.
Way to bring logic into this fantasy.
You can have your reverse hats if you want to. So it's cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Reverse hats every day. All the time. How do I do that?
So, a thing I am noticing universally among all the head shape, the body shapes look good. They're looking fun and fantastic. And holy cow, that top right hand corner is twisty and exciting to look
Twist.
at. But the heads, The heads
Yeah.
have followed. The eyes have really taken over the size of them. My suggestion: do a bit of studying on your heads here.
Mm.
And
Heads are hard.
I know you know that how to do this because I've seen you do it before. You've done art. Yeah. Go
Done
grab your
art.
references and really just use them, abuse them, have a great time with them. They will get you to that last few percent. Nice. Got such fun perspective.
Mm. And an exercise that's interesting that I've seen some artists do, by which I mean Lumix, is an exercise where, oh my god, there's too many computers here. It's basically one where you have a head. You draw like a circle for the head. You draw like where the neck should be, and then you like try to sort of try to connect them and sort of have the head twisting in like different directions and do sorts of weird stuff. I'm doing a bad job of this because I'm sketching at a very inopportune angle, but might be a fun way to like practice head shapes and all that sort of stuff, and all that kind of thing. But yeah, heads are difficult and annoying, especially once you start getting to like the weird angles. So if you're on a Discord, feel free to yell at us. Feel free to ping me, Pixie, and then I'll just be like, and I'll help. But yeah, head shapes are like all kinds of weird and strange, and you definitely need to like find exercises that work for you in terms of reinforcing like your knowledge of head shapes and how to draw things from different angles and have it like look pretty good and all that kind of thing. Because you can definitely get there. It just takes effort and time and all that kind of stuff. You just need to draw them enough so that you don't mess them up as much anymore.
Effort and
That's a true
time.
art
What are you
challenge.
talking about? If everyone knows there's just like a secret answer that'll make you amazing at art. It's not effort and time.
Oh yeah, sorry, my bad. You just buy a new brush and it'll be fine. Buy the
Mhm.
most expensive brush pack that you can find, and then you'll
The
be
most expensive
instantly
art
great.
program and the most expensive tablet, of course.
Yep, you need Clip Studio Paint EX, the $400 version, in order to be good at art. Sorry.
That's really the secret. Artists don't want you to know. We're just,
Yeah.
hogging it.
Yeah, 100%. It's got this button that you click, just makes you good at art.
Gotta go to expensive art classes
Yeah,
where
exactly.
they teach you the cheat codes to use.
Yep, the key combinations to unlock the secret menus.
Mm-hmm.
Up, down, left, right, B, select, start. I gave it away.
Secret.
All right. Anyone else have any other comments on this lovely collage of pictures?
No.
I mean, great work.
Really? Oh, you go.
I was just gonna say great work. I love that you're pushing your poses. You know what you have to do to practice this anatomy. Keep pushing those poses and keep doing sketches. Sketching is like the best way to get down anatomy. You don't need to finish a picture to just learn anatomy.
I love that you're pushing to do full scenes and stuff like that, because it took me a while before I felt confident enough to do like full scenes, and they really help when you're learning and help with your improvement and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, keep it up if you feel up to it.
All
Did I
right.
hear someone say "sad day" in the background?
Yeah.
I thought I heard that too.
Sad day.
I'm drawing on my tablet and I moved it wrong and my belly like hit some of the things on the taskbar at the bottom.
And it
Open
said
TikTok.
"sad day."
Open TikTok.
So you've had a sad day.
Ah,
All right. Let's move on to our next picture. This
yeah.
one
Okey-dokey.
is by
Twilight
Lone
Horse.
2719, and it's redesigning of Main 6, Part 1 of 6.
Ooh.
Heck yeah.
That makes sense, but there's 7 characters in the Main 6. Don't forget Spike.
Or Spike.
If you extend it to main 7, you can include Starlight as well.
Let's
Oh.
not forget our homegirl Sunset Shimmer. The most important, the original.
You need to remember all the members of the main 12, right?
You gotta remember
what
Lyra
the-
and Bonbon.
And then there's
Yeah, good for you.
Tempest. She got
The Kid
reformed.
6.
Yeah, what we're
Tempest
saying.
is out in the retirement home with the princesses. Don't worry.
What we're saying is our critique is we need more horse.
This is good.
So, wing connection point. You're gonna want to overlap and have it like connect up in here, like roughly like kind of like above-ish and a little bit behind where this like shoulder is, kind of sort of thing. And the other ear, you'd probably be able to see like a little tiny bit of it for just behind the mane there. It's hard to sort of get legs looking pretty decent. I think the main thing that I would sort of focus on is that sort of focus on the sort of straight bits and the bits where it isn't quite so like curvy and all that kind of stuff, because that is sort of that helps in creating impact and creating like good hooves that sort of feel real and all that kind of stuff. And with the hoof in particular, feel free to be like, boom, and then have the hoof like go forwards a bit, or like, down a bit, or like have the hoof specifically that like bit at the end do like little other bits of things, because that creates some really interesting sort of effects. Like right now, most of these are sort of just at the end. There's not really much. They're not adding too much more emphasis. Whereas if you can do something like this and then have like the thing end up like this or something like that, you can create some like very interesting sorts of poses that feel very energetic. It's a good horse, though. Good horse.
Mm.
Man, Pixie was just on fire with the critique there.
How about
It's a good critique.
Oh, thank you.
I do really like
I'm
the
going to
fluff.
leave it open for other people to talk.
You've done very good fluff overall. I think one of the
Very
things is... Sorry?
It's very soft.
Yes. I think one of the things that could be looked at or improved on the fluff is every piece of fluff you have has the same overlap pattern, where it's first one overlaps the second one. And if you're doing 2, it's always first is overlapping the second one. If it's 1, it's just a single piece that sticks off and they're all about the same length. Where your ear has very different feeling to the fluff. You got some nice fine fluff hanging around there, sticking about. My suggestion is more varied overlap if you're going to do it. Fluffy's Eye is very, very good at his fluff. I mean, it's his name, so if he wasn't, I think we'd have to take back his name. But
Yeah, gotta earn it.
there you go. It looks like he's doing it up on the side there. Doing varied sizes, and sometimes it all moves together, but if you've ever seen your own hair, it's chaos some days. It's just all sorts of madness. So I figure a horse would be very much the same, seeing as brushing all that down would take decades. So doing a varied pattern like what Fluffy has here is very beneficial for creating some nice, interesting fluff that doesn't feel the same everywhere.
Yeah, so learning how to have the fluff sort of bend out from a shape and then go back into the shape and sort of sit back on it, as I've done here, is very important. Like sometimes I don't need to have overlaps most of the time, and as you can see from what I've drawn, most of the time there isn't a direct like this thing is then overlapped by this one. Like a lot of the time they're just it's one sort of continuous thing, but like how you sort of seat it can make it look like a nice little sort of puff.
Mm.
And you can sort of layer it like this. But
So, very, very minor kinds of changes. This head,
Mhm.
very big. Head is very big. This is very middle, and this is pretty small. If you scroll back in the video a few seconds, you will see an amazing picture here. That kind of shows you a little bit more of a in proportion head. And yeah, look at this. Look at this amazing picture that is drawn the best that I've ever seen anybody draw anything. There's also like the head can be a little bit closer to the chest. You can sort of look at the space between the head and the chest, and then the chest and sort of the hips. In general, like let me draw on this one. The chest to the hips, and the head is going to be a little bit closer to the chest than the chest is going to be away from the hips, kind of sort of thing a little bit. And it's pretty simple. You just grab all that when you're in your sketch phase, and then just drag it down. And if you don't want to do it for this one, cool. You can keep it in mind for sort of your next few pictures, and just as you're working, kind of look at, okay, how big is the head compared to the the body? How far away is the head from the body? And maybe pull it in a bit and that sort of stuff. And the cool thing about like figuring out proportions and how far away bits are from other bits and all that kind of stuff is that if you focus on the same thing for a couple of pictures, you'll just automatically start doing it. Like I've had little phases and a couple of weeks or whatever where my faces were like pulled way out from like the back of the head a lot. And then I noticed it, and I noticed that I kept doing it on pictures, and I was like, okay, once I like do a sketch of a head, I'm gonna try to pull the face back and see if it like fixes it. And I did that for like a few pictures, a few days, and then I started just automatically like drawing it the right way again. So just stuff to look at. It's nothing to worry about or whatever. It's just proportions, and proportions are like one of those things that are always going to be difficult, and you're
yeah,
always going
it's
to be
always
having
end up
like
like
problems with
inconsistent sometimes and just needs fiddling.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
even now, like I consider myself a decently okay horse artist, but like sometimes I'll finish like a few pictures and I'll be like,
Absolutely. I don't think
damn,
it's
I
ever
need to.
not going to be a thing. Like, or
Yeah,
unless you're like a comic artist and you just draw the same like characters over and over again 100 times a day. But like otherwise, yeah, I absolutely end up like drawing characters that are completely have different proportions every time I draw them. But it's just
Yeah.
a matter of fiddling.
I mean, even as an exercise, last week I just took a page, a blank canvas, and I drew a bunch of different characters, but I let myself do it in like a different style each time. Like just completely different from each other. And you can learn a lot just by changing that up a bit. And then it's more about learning to understand why a style is consistent rather than only drawing in a singular style. If that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Anyone else have any other comments on this one?
No.
looks great. I love the colors in it. Like all the colors along the wing are like really interesting. The colors that you've chosen for the main, for the highlight colors and the shadow colors and these sort of things and these kinds of things are all really interesting. With the magic, I like messing about with like a little bit more orange of a color for Twilight's magic, and like especially for like the actual magic itself, like leaning into. Let me grab my pen. Something that you can do is push it a little bit more like towards red for like bits and pieces, and then even like a little bit into like the orangey colors and all that sort of stuff. So it can be fun to sort of shift a little bit more in that direction. So like the body is like more purpley bluey kinds of colors, and then that pushes up into like red and orange stuff. So I like messing about with that. I think it creates like an interesting kind of a color dynamic in the piece and stuff like that. So feel free to mess with it. Yeah.
All right.
Heck yeah.
Well, if anyone else has any other questions, any other art they'd like critiqued, now's your chance. Otherwise, we're gonna go down for a nap.
Yeah.
Happened. We're all asleep now. We did it.
Yeah, we're all asleep. Especially
Sounds like
Vex,
it's
who is
a-
double asleep.
All right. Well, seeing as no one else has pinged any off of our faces or yelled "stop, stop, 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 stop," we're gonna call it a day. So thank you all for coming, and we'll see you again next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.